Story: Judge belittles black woman until he learns she's the new Chief Justice of the U.S. The courtroom air was thick, suffocating, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Judge Harold Grayson's voice sliced through the silence, sharp and venomous, aimed at the woman standing before him. "You think you can waltz in here and lecture me on the law?" he sneered, his weathered face contorted with contempt. "I've been on this bench longer than you've been alive, young lady." The case was simple, a local ordinance dispute, a formality she'd volunteered to argue pro bono for a community center-facing closure. But Grayson's disdain wasn't about the case. It was personal. "I don't need some activist lawyer telling me how to run my court," he spat, his voice rising. The gallery stirred, murmurs rippling through the crowd. A young black girl, no older than 10, clutched her mother's hand, her wide eyes fixed on Amara. Amara's voice was steady, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Your Honor, I'm merely citing the statute. The ordinance violates federal protections under—" "Don't interrupt me," Grayson barked, slamming his gavel. The crack echoed, silencing the room. "You people always think you know better." The words landed like a punch, raw and deliberate. Gasps erupted from the gallery. The girl's mother pulled her closer, whispering something fierce. Amara's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She'd heard worse. She'd endured worse. But today something shifted. Today, she wasn't just fighting for a community center, she was fighting for every person who'd ever been diminished, dismissed, dehumanized. Grayson leaned back, smirking, oblivious to the storm brewing. "You're out of your depth, Ms. Ellis. Maybe you should stick to something simpler." The condescension dripped from his words, each one a calculated jab. Amara's hands clenched at her sides, but her face remained a mask of calm. She knew this moment wasn't just about her. It was about the girl in the gallery, the mother, the countless others who'd faced this same venom and had no voice to answer back. Then, a clerk burst through the courtroom doors, breathless, clutching a folder. "Your Honor," he stammered, "urgent message from the Supreme Court." Grayson waved him off, irritated, but the clerk persisted, placing the folder on the bench. The judge's eyes skimmed the page, and the color drained from his face. His smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of panic. He read it again, slower, as if the words might change. They didn't. The room held its breath. Grayson's voice, now barely a whisper, broke the silence. "Dr. Ellis, you're the new Chief Justice?" The gallery exploded. Shouts, gasps, and scattered applause filled the air. The young girl's mother stood, tears streaming, her hands clapping fiercely. Amara didn't move. Her gaze remained locked on Grayson, not triumphant, but resolute. "Yes, Your Honor," she said, her voice clear, unwavering. "Appointed last night. I assume you'll reconsider your tone." The courtroom seemed to shrink around Grayson. His authority, once ironclad, crumbled under the weight of his own prejudice. He stammered, "Two didn't know," but Amara wasn't here for apologies. She stepped forward, her presence commanding the room. "This isn't about me," she said, her voice rising, carrying the weight of decades of struggle. "It's about justice. It's about the law being blind to color, to gender, to anything but truth. You've forgotten that, but I haven't." She turned to the gallery, her eyes finding the young girl. "And neither will they." The girl's face lit up, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. Amara's words weren't just for the courtroom, they were for every person who'd been told they didn't belong, who'd been belittled, who'd been forced to fight twice as hard for half the respect. Grayson slumped in his chair, his gavel untouched. The clerk handed Amara the folder, and she opened it, revealing the official seal of the Supreme Court. The weight of her new title settled over her, not as a crown, but as a responsibility. She'd spent her life dismantling barriers, and now, as Chief Justice, she'd do it from the highest court in the land. The case moved forward, the ordinance struck down in minutes. But the real victory wasn't in the ruling, it was in the shift. The mother in the gallery hugged her daughter, whispering, "That's what you can be." The girl nodded, her eyes never leaving Amara. As Amara gathered her papers, a young lawyer approached, hesitant. "Chief Justice Ellis," he said, "how do you keep going?" After all that, Amara smiled, weary but unbroken. Because someone has to, she said. And because every time I stand up, someone else learns they can too. She walked out of the courtroom, head high, the weight of history on her shoulders and the promise of change in her steps. The girl in the gallery watched her go, clutching a dream that now felt possible. And on the judge's bench, the gavel sat silent, a handwritten note beside it. Justice rises above prejudice. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.